Welcome to Do That Well. I'm your host, Brenda Brown, and with me, my wonderful friend, Karen Thrall. Today on Do That Well, we are going to talk about the power of saying no. And it is a little bit of a departure from our normal topics. We tend to go forward with a very positive title. And just by the nature of putting no in the title, it gets your wheels turning a bit. But we think that this is a very important skill to learn how to have. Knowing how to say no is going to
Yes.
empower you, it's going to help you be more confident. And if you are a person that tends to give a
Yes.
lot, which you might know from listening to our last podcast, this will be especially beneficial for you. So, to jump right in, today we are going to talk about why it's so important. We're going to go into why this is such a necessary skill to have. We'll talk about actual different ways you can say no and different options that you may have if giving a hard no is not something you're quite ready for. And then we'll also talk about how practice makes perfect. Of course, practice always makes perfect, but it's especially important with learning the power of no.
Because you're learning a new muscle. For the people listening, if you have a hard time saying no, then that's a muscle you're not using. So how do you grow a muscle? You got to practice, practice, practice. But we're gonna do that at the end. Very excited about that part.
Practice makes perfect. So, Karen, to start off, what are the benefits of learning how to say no? Like what compels us to want to learn this skill?
When you have a difficult time saying no, and believe it or not, it is one of the reasons. There's a few. One of the reasons is the self-esteem. And think about this. If your self-esteem is coming into play, so you're saying yes, why? To please them, to be a team player, to show your love, to care for others more than yourself. When we're confident, we're not afraid to say no. When we're self-assured, when we have a contentment, saying no is not hard. But the pressure we put on ourselves to say yes, because it's that whole, again, reciprocation, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, and the golden rule, and all these things we talked about in the last episode. It's we feel obligated, and so to learn how to say no will lift. It's going to lift all that feeling of obligation. I have to say yes. Actually, you don't have to say yes, and your no can be equally as loving. A real, honest, sincere no is actually a very loving gesture. And the benefits of learning how to say no, it clears your canvas. If you think of a painting, you want to start with a blank canvas. It slows you down. When you learn how to say no, you're going to slow way down. So all these things are going to benefit you. And the greatest benefit is the pride that you'll have knowing that, oh, I was honest. I was really sincere and honest with my limitations. But we'll get into all that. But there are so many benefits from saying no.
And you use the word obligation. So, before we actually get into the different ways we can say no and how to practice that, let's talk for a moment about why giving too much or not knowing how to say no can be problematic. I think obligation is one of those things that plays into this idea. A lot of times we are hesitant to say no because we feel obligated for whatever reason to give a yes. And what are some other
Mm-hmm.
examples or reasons,
Mm-hmm.
things that can come out of being a giver that we're trying to avoid by learning the power of no?
So good. Even if we just start with obligation, often someone will be thinking, oh, I really should say yes. It would take me 5 minutes. I really should say yes. It would really help them. It would make them really happy. Oh, I should say yes. After all, that's I would want someone to say yes to me. I'm obligated to say yes because it's the right thing to do. And actually, is it? When you start asking yourself, is it the right thing to do? When think about it this way. If I say yes to you, Brenda, but inside my heart I'm saying no, 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 I don't want to. But in front of you, I say, okay, sure, I'll do that for you. That is actually not a loving gesture because it's not honest. And if we can strengthen the muscle of no so that it's authentic, the burden that's going to lift off of you to not have to be someone you're not, the clearing of your plate so you're not so full. Many people who have a hard time saying no, they take care of themselves last. They're the last person they're going to say yes to. And so I think we're really onto something. But even on that word obligation, another one I would like to bring up is unspoken expectations. When we say yes to something, the chances of there being an unspoken expectation are probably there. What do you do when you feel an expectation to do something, especially in the workplace? And we'll get into that. But in the workplace, there's a lot of pressure of unspoken expectations, company norms, and image, how you're portrayed, things like that.
Expectations is a big one. I think, as you said, oftentimes there is an unspoken expectation if you are giving a yes. And so that's why you want to make sure that you do feel that you are answering authentically, as you said, that if you're giving a yes, it's because you are 100% in. And if you're giving a no, it's because you truly aren't up for the occasion. And that is realistic. It's authentic. It is another way, again, that we can empower ourselves to just be ourselves, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I like that when you said empowered to just be yourself. I also, to even add to that, I find when I'm listening, especially in coaching, when I listen, is when somebody continually saying yes out of servitude, out of serving your fellow comrades, it does start to boil a bit of resentment. I'm always saying yes. I feel like I'm surrounded by takers. I'm giving and giving and giving, and in hopes that it's either going to further our relationship, it's going to empower them in their independence. I can teach them and model to them, and we hope that our giving produces a result that where they don't have to keep asking for you, whether you don't surround yourself with takers. So the resentment that builds up, and it is true. You do get confessions. I feel a little resentful towards people you love, and I think this is why we want to talk about it. Then what needs to change? The people you love, or how you answer, how you say yes and no. Wouldn't it be easier to change how you say yes and no instead of trying to change the people around you? I think that's an easier fix. So that's another one, is resentment that can build up.
I would agree with you that it's an easier fix to change the way that you're responding with a yes or a no. I'm a strong believer that when it comes to relationships, we can only be responsible and be in control of our behavior, right? And the way that our behavior is going to be received by others, that's on them. So if I'm not saying no because I think that I'm going to hurt that person's feelings, that's a moot point because I can't control how they are going to respond. I can't control their feelings, but what I can control is how I feel. And if I feel that I need to say no, then I need to be true to my authentic self, and whatever reaction they're going to have, that's their journey, not mine.
Mm-hmm. How it was so good, Brenda. The pressure. How did no become an ugly word? How did no become a word that we have a difficult time saying? It's super cute. What is one of the first words babies learn? No, no, and they go nope, and they shake their head nope. So they're on to something. The babies are like, I know exactly what I want, and that's a no. That is a no. That is a no. I want chocolate. I don't want those vegetables. That's a no. The freedom, how you entered this world, the freedom to be so sure of your yes and no at such a little tiny age when you're just this big. That is the original you. That your no is so valuable and so rich. It's so necessary and it gives life. When you say no, you're not putting a damper on things, you're giving life. You're speaking something. And how about this? What if your no empowers other people to be able to say no? What if you're the fire starter? What if you're the point of the arrow? And when you start to say no, you empower other people to say no, and everyone starts realizing, well, this isn't that hard when we all commit to the same things of this authentic conversations with each other.
I really like that because that's what we're trying to do with Do That Well. We're trying to inspire everyone. We're trying to inspire community. And so if your power of no can then inspire someone else to feel confident saying a no, like, that's amazing. That's gold. That's what we're here for. Now, at this point, you're all waiting with bated breath and you're like, yes, I'm ready to practice the power of no. Brenda and Karen, how do I do this? I want to get on board. So let's go to the next step here. How do we actually say no? What are different ways we can say no that aren't actually just saying the word no?
Okay, my absolute favorite exercise, absolute favorite, and it works like a charm, is slow down. Why is saying yes, how has it become such an urgent answer? There are so few things in life that are urgent. Your yes is not one of them. Your yes is not urgent. You're allowed to wait. You're allowed to pause. You're allowed to do that. So, to me, one of the biggest wins you can do, one of the greatest exercises and resources you have is slow down your yes. You don't even have to speed up your no. Just slow down your yes. If you have a hard time saying no, then slow down the yes. And what does that look like? What that looks like is, let me get back to you. Let me think on that. When do you need that? When do you need my answer by? I'm very focused right now on something else, so my mind's not with you. Let me just pause for a second and I'll come back and we can talk about this later. Slow everything down. When you slow it down, you'll become calm. And when you're calm, you'll start to think. And when you think, you'll start to make a decision. Good thinking helps you make good decisions. And your good decision will either be yes, I'd love to, or no, not at this time. So slow down your yes. You do not have to give an yes immediately. That's very encouraging and it works.
And I do like this solution because it's easy. Because you aren't ruling out yes, you're just slowing it down. You're just asking for time. Maybe you come back around and you decide it is
Yeah,
okay
yeah.
and the answer is a yes, but at least you've taken the time to
Mm-hmm.
think it
Mm-hmm.
through. Another one that I really like that you introduced me to, Karen, is the I'll say no to this, but I'm happy to do this. So we're inserting thises here. So if you're being asked, can you help me write my new resume? This is a question I've been asked before. Apparently, I'm very good at writing resumes. And I could then say, I can't help you with your resume. However, I'm happy to look it over once you've done it and give you feedback.
Perfect example.
So I'm not giving them a no, but I'm giving them a, a different yes.
Such a great example. Such a great example. That's an option. There are, if you think of a scale, there's a yes, and there's a no, and then there's a yes 0.9, yes 0.8, yes 0.76543, and there's a no. There are levels of yeses and nos. So you can choose any one of those no's or yeses. It doesn't have to be absolute. It can be exactly what you just said. uh, Karen, I'd like your help on this project. We have a deadline in a week. And first of all, let me think on that and let me look at my schedule and let me talk to my supervisor and let me just get my brain around this. When do you need my answer? Can you give to me in an hour, 30 minutes? Okay, give me 30 minutes. And then you go, I don't want to do that project. I don't want to do that. What do I say? Well, you can have a limited yes. Yes, with limitations. And that's what you did, Brenda, with the resume. It's perfect. I looked over my schedule. I have a lot on my plate, so I'm not able to help you with the actual project. However, what I am able to help you with is I noticed on your project you need the budget squared away. That's so easy for me. That will not take me a lot of time. Let me just do that part because at least that will speed you up better. Happy, just leave me with that and I'll get that to you. I can get that to you tomorrow. You would do that? Yes, I would do that for you. Thank you. Yes, with limitations. I have to say no to this, but I'm very happy to say yes to this. That is fantastic. So I agree. I agree.
Yay! I'm getting agreements. Okay, and then I have one more. So you guys have to know that for this episode, we found a multitude of different ways that we could say no. And we're just giving you some of our personal
Like a
favorites.
hundred.
If any, so many. If anyone's so inclined to get the whole list, shoot us an email. But we're just going to go over a few today. But I do want to get in another one that I really liked, Karen, was when you could bring an element of humor into it. So you could jokingly be like, oh, no, that's definitely a no. You know, that stresses me out to even think about it. Or something that brings a
Yeah.
sense of humor to it. Because I do think that no has such a negative connotation. And it doesn't need to be. That's what we're trying to talk about right now is that no doesn't have to be a negative thing. So I think bringing a sense of humor to your nose
Yeah.
can help bring the negativity out of it as well.
And it also it takes the pressure off answering and you almost can make fun of yourself. You could say something like, let's say your neighbor wants you to go help build their fence. And you go, oh my gosh, no, no, no. No, no, no. Have you seen me with the hammer? Like you need to get to know me better. Because if you knew me, you'd be like, do not come near my fence. Do not come near it. And there's a way that you can bring levity of making almost teasing yourself to say, I am not the person who's qualified for that. But I so am going to open my grill and I'm going to make a whole bunch of burgers and I'm going to have the music blasting. That I can do. And just a levity and again with an option, but what I can do. So you're right. That levity is really, really helpful in removing the oh what you might feel is the intensity of the no when there is no intensity. No, no's don't have to be intense. Another one that I like is the distraction technique. So this is funny because if someone ever asks me now and they hear this, they're gonna be like, "Oh, I know what she's doing. Okay, okay." And the distraction is so the person comes up to you in the workplace. I'll use workplace, but there's personal examples as well, or maybe we'll do another personal example later where they come into the workplace and they really want you to go to this meeting and it's going to be a 2 hour long meeting and you've been in meetings all day. You're like, I can't do it. I can't do another 2 hour meeting. So they're walking by, they go, hey, Karen, you're gonna be at that meeting, right? For 2 hours. Is that today? No, nope, I won't be there. But wow, good, happy for you. By the way, at your meeting, will you guys be talking about this, this, and this? Yeah, okay, that's great to know. Give me the Coles notes, but I will not be there. What do you mean you're not going to be there? I can't be there. This thing of deflecting, this thing of changing the subject quickly. Karen, will you be at that meeting that we're having in an hour? I'm not going to be at that meeting. By the way, you and I need to go have lunch tomorrow. You should put that in your books. Something that is sincere and honest, not like don't make something up that's not sincere and honest, but that ability to change the subject so that the second subject becomes primary and your no becomes secondary. It also establishes a relationship. You're showing that you're not just about a meeting, you have a connection. So, whatever that connection would look like. The other one, too, and this can happen both personally and professionally, is the flattery. To be flattered that they're asking. Thank you for thinking of me, and thank you for believing me. Thank you for choosing me. You can do all that flattery language that shows respect and appreciation for the ask, and then say your no. So, that's another really good one, too.
I like that one because it it can still be this very sincere, authentic answer. You can really actually be flattered, right? Or surprised that they asked you because you didn't think that was necessarily a skill set you were known for, and still keep your boundaries and let them know. Now, before we get
Yeah.
into spending the rest of this episode on practice, there's one more that I want to bring up because I know that I do this sometimes. And so this is one that I'm still working on for myself, which is when you're saying no, you don't need to over explain your no. You don't need to give all of the reasons that you're saying no. Your no can stand alone.
That's
This
so
one
good.
was honestly
So
a little
good.
mind blowing for me because it's so simple, but I know that I do this. I because that guilt sets in and I'll start to feel bad that I'm not saying yes, so all of a sudden I have to write this novel for why I don't want to. And if we can just find that confidence and the power of saying no, then we don't need to give so much explanation.
And yes, guilty as well. And it's the validation. I have to validate my no. I have to validate myself. So I may over explaining to justify why I have to say no, and you don't have to do any of that. And no's perfect.
The no is enough. Okay, so we are nearing the end of our episode. Let's talk about practice. This is a very important step in learning the power of no. How do we practice? What are some steps we can take here, Karen?
Mhm. Well, the awkward one is the simplest and most awkward one at the beginning is your voice. What happens to many people is they say no internally, but they can't hear it come out of their voice. And so when it's time to say no, it's such a skill that's not seasoned, that there's a panic that comes over them, or an angst or frustration that they're being asked again. So that whole feeling, and so their energy comes out with the no. So the first thing is, when you step away, you're going to calm the energy down. When you get frustrated or feel a little bit resentful for always being the one people turn to, that stepping away is going to calm your energy so you can just give a calm no. The second one is to practice your no. So you're going to call your friend and you're going to say, hey, I need to say no. Here's what I'm going to say. What do you think? And you have sounding boards. You can be laying on the couch and look up at the ceiling and just go, nope, no, thank you. No, I'm not interested. No, just hear yourself say no. Look in the mirror. You got this. You got this. No, 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 no. Like it just five. And as I know, I'm bringing some levity here, but there is validation. It really works to practice the voice of no. The voice of no is the very first thing you need to do.
And that is feedback that we hear often when it comes to anything that's verbal, right? We hear practice it out loud, practice saying it out loud in front of a mirror, in front of your friends. However, that does not discredit how effective this is. It is so effective to actually just say the words out loud audibly. I know from you, Karen, I learned this using a video recorder. So on your phone, using your voice memo, and then listening back to it. And when you first told me to do that, I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, I'll give that a try. But I felt really silly, and I'll admit I didn't want to try it, but I did. I did try it, and I am such an advocate for doing this now because it is effective. It's so good to go back and hear yourself, hear the tones, hear the inflection. And bonus points, I felt really cool because I felt like I was an 80s detective and I had a little voice recorder with my little cassette tapes. So you also get cool points if you like 80s movies. I kind of want to get a little recorder with little cassettes now, though. That'd be really fun.
All of a sudden, all the sales go way up. All these little record mini cassettes.
Yeah, the people are going to be flocking the Goodwills and different secondhand stores for these now. I'm going to start a new trend. Uh, However, there are other ways that we can practice as well. So, what are, other than saying things out loud, recording ourselves, what are some other good habits that we can get into?
The other one I think is probably the most important habit is being so confident in your decisions. A lot of times people say yes out of uncertainty or feeling guilty. When you remove all the guilt and the pressure and the obligation, and you're saying no because it is the healthiest choice to make for you and for them. Think of no as a healthy choice. This is healthy for me because I'm not rejecting the person. I'm just, and be very specific. For this specific thing you're asking me, I'm not able to say yes to. There's no rejection. You're not losing your reputation. You're not going to miss out on a job promotion. You are solidly weighing out the decisions you need to make. Slow down and weigh out your decisions. People can feed off that. When people know when you are self assured about your no, there's a tremendous calmness. And I know I've already said this, but it really is the strength, the inner strength you're going to find by saying no. And we say it naturally. Would you like gravy on those potatoes? No, thank you. It's not hard. It's not an unloving thing to do. And I think the final thing I would say is that no is loving. It is loving. And let me prove that. You cannot serve and give from something you don't have within you. I cannot help you when I don't have it within me to help you. If I said to you, Brenda, I have a dozen apples. I'm going to come by your house. I'm going to give you a dozen apples. Oh, you don't have to do that. No, I want to. I'll be by. Okay, and I knock on the door. You go, hey, expecting a dozen apples, right? I said, I told you I'm going to do. You had now have an expectation, and I show up with one apple. I go, here you go, and you're like, oh, oh, thought there was going to be 12, and I didn't even need 12, but this is weird. And so I give you the apple, and you're like, hey, thank you. Huh, that's nice. Okay, that's a possibility. When we say yes too much, that is what that looks like. Think about the visual. That is a person who says yes too much, giving or promising what they don't have. However, if I say to you, Brenda, I have one apple and I'd like to give it to you. Karen, no, you don't. I don't need your one apple. No, I really want to. I want to give you my one apple. Okay, I'm gonna be back later. And I knock on the door and you're like, hi, I go, here you go. I'm like, and you'd be like, oh my gosh, really? Are you sure? Yeah. I want you to have my one apple. Same apple. And now I'm giving from what I have. I'm giving you what I have. So when we say no, it's because you don't have it. But when you say yes, it's all of you. It's every bit of you. And it's going to be, people are going to be like, wow, thank you so much. Because they're going to know it's from a whole different place within inside you. It's a whole different, the yes becomes just this beautiful gift. And so is no. No is a clearing. When you say no, that means someone else gets to say yes. Don't fill up that space, because behind your no is a no, behind your yes is a no. Somebody else behind their yes is a real yes. So shouldn't the person who has a real yes be doing that and not you? Anyway, there's my spiel, but it's the power of no is really a gift to you and your other people.
And this is such a powerful image with the apples because it really does illustrate how if you can strengthen your no, then the yeses they become that much more special, for lack of a better word, because they have more power behind them. When you do go to say yes, it's going to be with
Mm-hmm.
100% of you, and it's going to be authentic and true. So I thank you for sharing that example because I think that that really beautifully illustrates this idea of how strengthening your no is so important, and it does actually in turn strengthen your yes as well. All right, well, that is all the time we have for today, so we're going to wrap up. But from this episode, we talked about the power of no. We talked about why it's important, some of the downfalls to if you don't strengthen your no and you tend to fall into a too much of a giver pattern. And we looked at different ways that you can say no that aren't actually just giving a hard no, as well as talked about some ways that you can try and practice this. Thanks for listening, and until next week, we're Do That Well.